All right, diving in today, folks, we're looking at something pretty fascinating. The AAAI 2025 Presidential Panel Report.
Yeah, a real treasure trove. You sent this our way,
It
and
is.
it's like a glimpse into the future of AI research, where the field is going, the big questions, and why it should matter to all of us.
Yeah, and not just for the AI experts out there, right? This impacts everyone.
Absolutely, this isn't just some dry academic paper either.
Yeah.
We're talking leading AI researchers contributing to this. Plus, they did a massive survey, like 475 people from all walks of AI.
Oh, wow. So it's a pretty broad perspective.
It is, yeah. And it's interesting when you see who responded. Like, obviously, you have the academics, that's a given. But then you also get a solid chunk from corporate research, almost 20%.
Okay, so a mix of the theoretical and the practical.
Exactly. And, geographically, it's mainly North America, Asia, and Europe. But what really stands out is the background of these folks.
So what's the common thread there?
This is key. The survey really emphasizes how AI research is becoming much more multidisciplinary. It's not just computer science anymore. It's neuroscience, it's medicine, sociology, philosophy, economics, you name it. And here's the kicker. 95% of the people they surveyed want to see this trend continue.
Wow, 95%. That's almost everybody.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it really changes how we view the future of AI. It's not just about algorithms. It's about understanding people, how societies work, how the world ticks.
AI needs to operate in the real world, after all.
Right, exactly. Like, think about how neuroscientists and AI researchers teaming up could change how we create AI systems. Maybe we can build them based on how our own brains work. Super interesting stuff.
No kidding. So the report covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Where should we focus our deep dive today to really get a handle on where AI is headed?
Well, they lay out some pretty key areas. We should definitely talk about AI reasoning. How AI figures things out and makes conclusions.
Makes sense. Reasoning is kind of fundamental to intelligence, right?
Definitely. Then there's the big one, AI factuality and trustworthiness, which is huge if we want to build AI we can rely on. And of course, we've got to talk about AI agents, these autonomous systems that are becoming more and more common.
AI agents, like those chatbots everyone's talking about.
Exactly. We also need to think about AI evaluation. How do we even measure progress in AI and ensure it's safe? And then, naturally, AI ethics and safety, that's super important.
Can't forget about the ethical implications.
No way. And last but not least, AI and sustainability, the environmental impact, and how AI can actually help us build a more sustainable future.
All right, a lot to unpack there. Let's start with AI reasoning. The report seems to say it's been a core part of the field from the very beginning.
Right. That ability to draw conclusions, to create new knowledge from what's already there, that's reasoning. It's crucial. And the report really emphasizes how AI systems need verifiable reasoning capabilities. Even way back in early AI research, this was a major focus.
So AI has been wrestling with reasoning for a long time.
Well, yeah, it's pretty cool to see how they approached it, even decades ago. Like in the 60s, they were already applying probabilistic reasoning to things like medical diagnosis.
Wow, the 60s. So did the way we think about AI reasoning change over time?
Definitely. Early on, they explored two main types of reasoning. One was plausible reasoning, which is kind of like how we use our past experiences and analogies to figure things out. And the other was sound formal reasoning, which uses logic and probability to make sure the conclusions are correct.
Formal reasoning is like that double-checking we do to make sure we're right.
Yeah, exactly. And over time, the focus shifted more towards these formal methods, especially when AI was being used for things like verifying computer hardware or making sure critical systems are safe. You really need that guarantee of correctness.
Makes sense. You don't want any glitches in those areas.
Not at all. And that led to some really impactful techniques like SAT and SMT solvers. These are like super advanced logic puzzles for AI, where they try to find the right true or false values for variables to satisfy a bunch of rules.
Sounds pretty complex.
It is, but the good thing is they guarantee the right answer. And then there's probabilistic graphical models, which help AI reason even when things are uncertain. We use these in everything from medicine to robotics these days.
So a lot of progress in formal reasoning. But then we have the rise of LLMs. And those things can sound so smart even when they're making stuff up.
That's the million-dollar question, right? LLMs, or large language models, are amazing at generating text that sounds logical and convincing. But the report is clear that we still need to make sure their reasoning is actually accurate and deep enough, especially if they're going to be making decisions in the real world.
If an LLM is driving a car, we want it to be right.
Exactly. So even though LLMs excel at that plausible reasoning, we're now working on bringing back those guarantees we get from formal reasoning. That's where research into large reasoning models and neuro-symbolic approaches comes in, trying to merge the strengths of neural networks and symbolic reasoning.
Neuro-symbolic, that's combining the best of both worlds.
Right. It's like taking the flexibility of LLMs and adding the reliability of formal logic. And it's not just a technical thing. It's acknowledging that AI that only learns from data might not be enough if we want it to be truly reliable and explainable.
And if we can't understand it, we can't trust it.
Exactly. And that's huge for building trust in AI. Like, imagine an AI that can come up with a plan and then prove to us that it'll work without causing any harm. That's the kind of potential we're talking about here.
Powerful stuff. But it sounds like the research community still has some pretty big questions about AI reasoning.
Oh, for sure. The report doesn't shy away from the biggies. Like, it even starts with what exactly is reasoning, which is a pretty fundamental question.
Except up basics.
Right. But then it gets into the nitty-gritty, like, can we actually trust the reasoning of LLMs? And what about symbolic reasoning? Is it here to stay? Or will LLMs eventually replace it completely? And how do we even make sense of how an AI reaches a conclusion, especially with these LLMs?
That black box problem everyone talks about.
Exactly. And then there's the human-AI collaboration piece. How do we work together with AI to reason effectively? And how do we integrate those powerful LLMs with the more traditional symbolic methods? This is where neuro-symbolic reasoning systems come into play.
Lots of exciting avenues to explore there. But it's good to know the AI community is asking these tough questions.
Absolutely. And the survey really highlights how important this area is. Over 76% of the people they asked said that integrating learning and reasoning approaches is crucial. And that aligns with the emphasis on explainability and verifiability. Being able to understand and prove what the AI is doing.
So explainability and verifiability go hand in hand with trustworthiness. Right?
Definitely. And get this, over 60% of those surveyed think we'll need at least 50% symbolic AI techniques to reach human-level reasoning. That suggests that just relying on LLMs might not be enough.
So symbolic AI still has a big part to play.
It seems that way. It makes you wonder about those AI systems that already use formal reasoning for scientific discoveries or safety checks. They're already operating at what you might call a superhuman level in terms of logical deduction. Maybe we need to give those techniques a little more credit.
Fascinating point. Okay, let's shift gears to AI factuality and trustworthiness. This feels particularly relevant to anyone consuming AI-generated content these days.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. The report is very clear, improving AI factuality, meaning it doesn't spit out false or misleading information, and making it more trustworthy is the top priority for AI research today.
This is what keeps people up at night, right? Can we trust what AI is telling us?
Definitely a concern. And here's the thing. Even with all the progress we've made, most AI scientists don't think there's a quick fix for this.
So no magic bullet for AI trustworthiness.
Not yet, at least. And it's interesting how the root of the problem has kind of shifted. Back in the day, before generative AI, it was all about garbage in, garbage out. If the AI was giving you bad output, it was probably because it was trained on bad data.
Bad data leads to bad results.
Exactly. But now, with generative AI, especially LLMs, we have this whole new layer of complexity. The report calls it reconstructive memory, meaning the AI is basically making up information on the fly based on this huge data set it's been trained on.
Like an AI improvising a story, but not always getting the facts right.
Right. And early on, this led to a lot of AI hallucinations outputs that sound totally plausible but are completely made up. Fine-tuning these models on better data sets helped, but only in specific areas.
So we can make them more factual in specific domains, but what about generally?
That's the challenge. The report outlines a few key approaches researchers are using to try and tackle this. Fine-tuning is still a big one, but now they're using reinforcement learning, where AI learns from feedback, and this often involves a ton of input from human evaluators, which gets expensive.
So humans are still in the loop, at least for now.
Yeah, for now. Another method is retrieval augmented generation, or RA, where the AI actually goes and pulls information from a knowledge base before it gives you an answer. But of course, the output's only as good as the information it finds.
Back to that garbage in, garbage out problem, I guess.
In a way, yeah. And some are working on giving AI the ability to use fact-checking tools like calculators or citation indexes. And then there's chain of thought prompting, where you guide the AI to break down a question into smaller steps and even check its own work along the way.
Like giving the AI training wheels for reasoning?
Yeah, something like that. It's all about trying to make those thought processes more transparent and reliable.
So those are all about making sure the AI gives us correct information. But trustworthiness is more than just factuality, right? What else is there?
You got it. Trustworthiness in AI means more than just getting the facts straight. It's also about understanding why the AI is doing what it's doing, about its robustness, meaning it doesn't break down easily if the input changes a little, and about aligning its actions with human values. That last one's a big one, and we'll probably delve into it more later.
So it's not just about what AI does, but how and why.
Exactly. And research is tackling all of these aspects. For understanding, some are building simpler AI models that are easier to interpret. Others are using techniques like that chain of thought prompting we talked about to make the AI's reasoning process more transparent. They're even trying to get AI to express how certain it is about its answers.
A little AI humility could go a long way.
I think so. And for robustness, they're using methods like contrastive learning and adversarial training to basically make the AI more resilient to tricky or misleading input.
Making it tougher to fool.
Exactly. So all of this begs the question, what does the AI community as a whole think about all this factuality and trustworthiness stuff? Survey shed some light on that, right?
It does. What's the overall consensus?
Well, over 75% of the AI folks they surveyed said factuality and trustworthiness are super relevant to their work. And there's a lot of support for exploring new neural network architectures and using external fact-checking tools to boost factuality.
So, a pretty clear priority for the field.
Yeah. When it comes to trustworthiness, they're also keen on new architectures, but also on models that can explain their reasoning and are just easier to understand in general.
Making AI less of a black box.
Exactly. And interestingly, they don't think giving AI human-like personalities is that important for building trust.
So we don't need AI to be our buddy, we just need to be able to trust its output.
Right. But here's the thing. A lot of them, like almost 60%, actually think we don't even have a clear definition of what trustworthiness in AI really means yet.
So we're still figuring out what trust even looks like in this context.
Exactly. And maybe even more importantly, most researchers don't expect us to solve these problems of factuality and trustworthiness anytime soon. It highlights just how complex these issues are.
Tough nuts to crack for sure. Let's turn our attention to AI agents now. The report says this field has gone through a lot of changes over the years.
It really has. They trace it back to the early days of AI research, where there was a lot of focus on multi-agent systems, basically having multiple AI agents working together, often using ideas from game theory.
Like a team of AI playing a game together.
Yeah, kind of like that. Back then, there was this idea that these multi-agent systems would be everywhere, solving all sorts of real-world problems. But that hasn't quite happened yet. Though we have seen individual dialogue agents like Alexa and Siri take off. Those are pretty common now.
So individual agents are doing well, but the teamwork aspect is still challenging.
Yeah, getting those multi-agent systems to work reliably in the real world is still a work in progress. But with the rise of large language models, there's renewed interest in this whole area of AI agents, especially in using them to automate more tasks.
So LLMs are giving AI agents a boost.
Big time. The report even introduces this term agentic AI, which is about integrating generative AI and LLMs into these autonomous agent frameworks. They're thinking these advanced language models will make the agents way more sophisticated, more creative, and better at making decisions on the fly.
So the agents can understand us better and respond in more complex ways.
Yeah, that's the idea. But of course, there are still some hurdles to overcome in actually making these super smart AI agents a reality.
There are always hurdles in AI.
Always. The report outlines a few key research challenges. One is figuring out how to integrate these Gen AI-powered agents into existing multi-agent systems without causing a whole bunch of problems.
Like making sure the new agents don't mess up the teamwork.
Right. And then there's the challenge of improving how these LLM-driven agents negotiate and make decisions in complex dynamic environments, all while ensuring they're acting ethically and safely, of course.
So the agents need to be both smart and responsible.
Absolutely. And then there's the fundamental challenge of building the actual architecture for these systems, making them scalable, transparent, and not overly demanding in terms of computing power.
It sounds like there's some debate in the AI community about this whole idea of using LLMs as agents.
There is, yeah. The survey shows a pretty clear split. While a little over half of the respondents think these multi-agent LLM systems are crucial for AI to keep advancing, a good chunk, like 42%, disagree. They think it might just make things unnecessarily complicated and resource-intensive.
So some are all in on LLM agents, others are more cautious.
Right. And there's this whole question of cost-benefit analysis. Are the potential benefits of using LLMs as agents worth the computing power they'll require? It's a big debate. Many in the field are actually advocating for more hybrid approaches, where LLMs play a part but aren't the only focus. They're worried about the complexity, the lack of theoretical guarantees about how these systems will behave, and of course, those computational costs. Plus, there are practical challenges like grounding these agents in the real world, aligning them with human values, and making sure they can communicate effectively with each other.
So a lot of open questions still. Makes sense. It's cutting edge stuff. Let's move on to AI evaluation. The report really emphasizes how important this is as AI systems become more powerful and widespread.
It's critical. The report argues that a lot of the hesitancy around deploying advanced AI comes down to concerns about the risks, which is understandable.
People are worried about what could go wrong.
Yeah, and those worries are valid. We're
Yeah.
talking about things like those AI hallucinations we discussed, the possibility of data leaks, especially sensitive information, and just a general lack of confidence that these systems will always operate ethically and legally. So we desperately need more robust and comprehensive methods for evaluating AI systems.
So we need to get better at figuring out if AI is doing what it's supposed to and doing it safely and ethically.
Exactly. And the focus of evaluation needs to evolve too. Traditionally, AI evaluation was all about assessing how well individual algorithms perform in very controlled settings. Now we need to figure out how these algorithms work within entire AI systems in the messy real world, especially when they're being used by people who aren't AI experts.
So not just evaluating the parts, but the whole system in its natural environment.
Right. And evaluating these complex systems brings a whole new set of challenges compared to traditional software testing. AI systems are so general, so complex, and they can do so much that exhaustive testing is basically impossible. We need to rethink what sufficient testing even means in this context.
So we need a new definition of good enough when it comes to testing AI.
Absolutely. And then there's the fact that many AI systems can actually learn and adapt after they've been deployed, which means we need to keep monitoring and validating them. And to top it off, many AI systems involve humans as part of the loop, so we have to consider how the AI affects human performance and how well humans and AI can work together.
So we're not just evaluating the AI in isolation, but also its interactions with humans.
Exactly. So the report emphasizes three main dimensions we need to focus on when evaluating these complex AI systems. First, there's capability. Does the system actually do what it's supposed to do effectively?
The basic functionality.
Right. Second, there's usability, which includes transparency. Can users understand how the AI is working and why it's making certain decisions? And then there's directability, also called alignment. Can users actually control and adjust the AI's behavior to fit their specific needs and goals?
So it's not enough for the AI to be capable, it also needs to be understandable and controllable by humans.
Exactly. And then finally, we need to make sure the AI adheres to all the relevant legal and ethical guidelines. Frameworks like the EU Trustworthy AI Assessment Framework are being developed to help with this. And the report also points out the value of red teaming, which is basically where you intentionally try to break the AI system by feeding it adversarial inputs.
So like ethical hacking, but for AI.
Yeah, something like that. The goal is to find the AI's weaknesses and potential points of failure before it's deployed in the real world.
Makes sense. So what's the AI community's take on all this evaluation stuff? Are they on board with the need for more rigorous evaluation?
Well, the survey results are a bit interesting here. While a whopping 90% of those surveyed said they spend a good chunk of their time on evaluation, only 58% strongly agreed that organizations would actually hesitate to deploy AI without better evaluation methods.
So a potential disconnect between acknowledging the importance of evaluation and actually prioritizing it in practice.
Yeah, it's a little concerning. It suggests that some might be rushing to implement AI without fully grasping the risks. But when asked about the biggest challenges, the most common answer was the lack of suitable evaluation methodologies, followed by the whole black box nature of many AI systems.
So they know evaluation is important, but they're struggling with how to actually do it well, especially with those hard-to-understand AI systems.
Right, and they're calling for better monitoring of AI systems once they're deployed, specific frameworks for evaluating the safety of agentic AI, more transparency in AI operations, and methods that address the complexities of human-AI interaction.
So a lot of work still to be done on the evaluation front. Now let's dive into what might be the most talked about aspect of AI, the ethics and safety of it all.
Yeah, this is a big one. And as AI gets more powerful and is used more widely, it's only natural for people to have concerns.
AI ethics is a hot topic these days.
For sure. The report really emphasizes how the decisions AI researchers and developers make today have huge implications down the line. They have a big responsibility to make sure AI is used for good.
Like, how do we ensure AI benefits humanity rather than causing harm?
Exactly. And the report points out how the AI community's thinking about safety has evolved over time. Early on, there were these fears of AI becoming super intelligent and taking over, but a lot of academics dismiss those fears as science fiction.
So the Terminator scenario wasn't taken seriously.
Not so much. But recent breakthroughs, especially with LLMs, have made those once outlandish concerns feel a lot more real.
So the sci-fi is starting to feel a little too real.
Kinda, yeah. And the report highlights AI alignment as a major challenge. This is about making sure AI systems actually understand and act on our intentions.
Like, how do we make sure AI does what we want it to do, not what it thinks we want it to do?
Precisely. And current alignment techniques are often seen as pretty fragile, which is worrying. Plus, we have more immediate concerns, like how AI can be used for things like cybercrime, which are only getting worse as AI gets more powerful.
AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Right. So the report raises some fundamental questions about how we approach ethics and safety in AI. Like, when do we need to start thinking about these issues? Can we just evaluate AI for safety after it's already been developed and deployed? Or do we need to build those ethical and safety considerations into the design of AI systems from the ground up?
Like, should we be thinking about ethics at the drawing board, not just as an afterthought?
Yeah, that's a big question. And can we even formally verify, like mathematically prove, that an AI system meets ethical and safety requirements, especially with these complex neural networks? What would a truly fail-safe AI even look like?
So many questions, so few answers right now.
Right. And then there are questions about how we can detect if an AI system starts behaving in ways we didn't intend. What are the red flags? And what can we do, technically speaking, to prevent AI from spiraling out of control?
It's like trying to predict the unpredictable.
In a way, yeah. And the report also talks about the role of ethics review boards in AI research, especially for projects that involve potentially sensitive data or are aimed at children. Like, if a research project wants to train an AI on the entire internet, should there be some kind of ethical review process?
It seems like common sense, but with AI, things are rarely that straightforward.
Totally. And they also question whether we need people with specific ethics training to review AI research. It's a whole new area that we're still figuring out.
So a lot of ethical and philosophical questions alongside the technical ones.
Yeah. And the report stresses that we can't just rely on computer scientists to solve these problems. It's going to take collaboration with people from other fields like policy, law, and political science to really guide the development of AI in a way that benefits society.
An interdisciplinary approach to AI ethics.
Exactly. We need all hands on deck to navigate these complex issues.
So what's the general feeling in the AI community about all this? How seriously are they taking ethics and safety?
Well, according to the survey, the majority of AI researchers, something like 67%, see AI ethics, safety, and alignment as being very relevant to their work, which is encouraging. They're particularly worried about misinformation, privacy violations, and figuring out who's responsible when AI systems cause harm.
So those are the top ethical concerns.
Yeah. And they also point out that there just aren't enough resources dedicated to ethics research in AI. We need more funding and support in that area. As for solutions, they're big on multidisciplinary approaches, so involving experts from different fields. And they see technical research, regulations, and public education as key strategies for ensuring AI safety.
A multi-pronged approach.
Exactly. And there's this general agreement that the ethics folks and the safety folks need to work together more closely. But some researchers expressed skepticism about how vague some of the current AI ethics frameworks are and how they might be influenced by politics. They're calling for stronger incentives to promote ethical AI development, clear legal accountability when AI systems mess up, and AI that can actually learn and internalize human values.
It sounds like they want to see some teeth in those ethics frameworks.
Yeah, they want to make sure those ethical guidelines aren't just empty words. Okay, so let's tackle the final topic from the report: AI and sustainability. This is becoming increasingly important as we try to address climate change and preserve our planet.
It's on everyone's mind these days.
For good reason. The report highlights how much energy and water AI compute is using, especially with the rise of those generative AI models and the massive data centers needed to train and run them. And while AI only accounts for a small fraction of global electricity use right now, its energy footprint is expected to grow rapidly.
So the energy demands of AI are only going up.
Yeah, unfortunately. And the report points out that data center energy consumption is not evenly distributed around the world. Some regions are bearing more of the environmental burden than others.
Which raises questions about environmental justice.
Right, exactly. But it's not all doom and gloom. The report also explores how AI can actually be a powerful tool for achieving sustainability goals.
So AI can be part of the solution, not just the problem.
Precisely. AI can help us make better predictions and optimize all sorts of things that are crucial for sustainability, like energy grids, water management, and industrial processes. This can lead to less waste and lower emissions.
So AI helping us be more efficient.
Exactly. And people are using AI to improve climate modeling so we can better understand what the future holds. It's also being used for disaster preparedness, for monitoring and protecting wildlife, and even for discovering new, more sustainable materials.
Wow, so many different applications.
Yeah, AI is incredibly versatile. And the report even mentions how AI is being used in material science to accelerate the development of things like better batteries and carbon capture technologies.
That's amazing. So AI is being used to help us combat climate change on multiple fronts.
Right. It's not just about reducing AI's own footprint. It's about using AI to create a more sustainable world overall.
It sounds like the international community is starting to pay attention to this intersection of AI and sustainability as well.
Definitely. The International Energy Agency, or IEA, is doing some interesting work on this. They're analyzing how much energy AI uses and how AI can be applied within the energy sector to make it more sustainable. And we're seeing new benchmarks and scoring systems being developed to measure how energy efficient AI models are.
So like energy efficiency ratings for appliances, but for AI.
Yeah, exactly. It helps us keep track of AI's environmental impact. And then there's the Coalition for Sustainable AI, which was started by France with the UN and the International Telecommunication Union. They're working on creating guidelines and best practices to minimize the environmental footprint of AI across all industries.
So a collaborative effort to make AI more sustainable.
Absolutely. So what are the big research challenges in this area? How do we make sure AI contributes to a more sustainable future?
That's the key question, right?
It is. The report really emphasizes that we need to manage AI's own energy and resource demands. That's a top priority. And that involves designing more energy-efficient AI models and hardware, as well as developing what they call carbon-aware computing.
Carbon-aware computing.
Yeah, it's about scheduling AI tasks strategically so they run when cleaner energy sources are available.
So like making sure the AI is using solar power when the sun's shining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We also need better data to accurately assess AI's overall environmental impact. And they call for more scenario analyses to understand the long-term environmental consequences of widespread AI deployment.
So thinking about the big picture of AI and sustainability.
Right. And of course, we need to keep researching how AI can contribute to those broader sustainability solutions like better energy storage, removing carbon from the atmosphere, and protecting biodiversity.
All crucial for a sustainable future.
Absolutely. And so what does the AI community think about all this? Do they see AI as a force for good in the fight against climate change?
Yeah, what's their take?
Well, the survey results are a bit mixed on that. It seems like the community is pretty split on whether AI's potential benefits for addressing climate change outweigh its environmental costs. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Makes sense. There's a lot to weigh there.
There is. But when asked about specific areas where AI could make a real difference for sustainability, most respondents pointed to things like logistics, transportation, and infrastructure optimization.
So using AI to make those systems more efficient and less wasteful.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's been a deep dive. As we wrap up, what are the key takeaways that really stand out to you?
I'd say the big one is just how much AI research is happening right now and how many fundamental questions are being asked. From making sure AI can reason correctly and truthfully to making sure it's deployed ethically and sustainably, the challenges are huge.
Huge, but exciting too. There's so much potential for AI to do good.
Absolutely. And the report really highlights how the future of AI depends on more than just technical progress. It's also about understanding human values, how societies work, and how AI impacts our planet.
Couldn't agree more. And there are some details in the report that really make you think, like that ongoing tension between the amazing things LLMs can do and the fact that we still need to make sure their reasoning is reliable. And how do we even define and achieve trustworthiness in AI systems? That's a tough one. And then there's the whole ethical tightrope walk as AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives. This is something we all need to be aware of.
So many ethical considerations to keep in mind.
Right. And finally, that whole issue of AI's environmental impact and how it can be used to create a more sustainable future, that's crucial.
AI can't be a solution if it's also contributing to the problem.
Exactly. And it was fascinating to see that the AI community itself is divided on some of these big issues. Like, how quickly are we rushing to deploy AI, and is that responsible given the risks? And is AI's overall impact on the environment positive or negative? It's great that they're having these discussions openly.
Transparency and open debate are key. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, but this is really just the beginning. To our listeners out there, what are your thoughts? What parts of AI's future are you most excited about or most worried about?
Yeah, what questions are still swirling around in your head after this deep dive? We'd love to hear from you.
Keep those questions coming. The future of AI is a conversation we all need to be a part of. And for today, thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for listening.